Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boss Man. And this week we are going back over our E3 predictions, what we got right, what we kind of got right, what I totally got wrong, and looking towards the future and what's going to happen, and some reactions. So, well, not really last episode, more like a couple episodes ago, I made a few E3 predictions, 5 to be exact, and I'm actually pretty happy. I nailed about half of my predictions. Now, how can you nail half when you had 5? I will explain. So, for starters, my very first prediction was we were going to see The Last Guardian at Sony's press conference. Boom! Happened. They led off their press conference with that. So, right away, I got my confirmation. The Last Guardian was at Sony's press conference. Wasn't playable on the show floor. It was pretty much an extension of what we saw 7 or 8 years ago. But either way, it was there. That's a win. I'm counting it. The Last Guardian was at Sony's press conference. My second prediction had to do with Star Fox, in that the reactions coming out of E3 would be that the game is better for the motion controls. Now the reactions are mixed. There are some media members who played the game that said, yes, the motion controls are great. It clicked. It made the game better. It made it easier to play. And then there's some that said, no, it didn't. So I can't count this as a full win because I said the reaction would be overwhelmingly positive. In fact, you could argue that I lost it because it's not overwhelmingly positive. However, the reactions are so mixed that I'm just going to call it a draw on this one. We're going to give this a half win. The controls were optional, as I said they would be. You can play in the classic Star Fox. You can play in the classic Star Fox control scheme and everything, but they really encouraged the motion control stuff at E3, and some people really liked it, some people were indifferent. There's been a lot of talk about the visuals, but that wasn't what I was talking about. I was just focusing on the controls. I'm going to give it half win because about half the media seems to have loved it, half the media didn't, and they have both control schemes for everybody, so everybody wins, right? Right? All right. My third prediction, I'm trying to think back now. I had Last Guardian. I had Star Fox. Third prediction was Project Robot. I did not get that right. Project Robot is on hiatus. It's not even at E3. I'm not even going to count that as a win. Or a loss. It pretty much doesn't count, so it's a loss. Yeah, Project Robot wasn't at E3. These are E3 2015 predictions. Wasn't there, so obviously there was no reaction. Thus, I got that one wrong. Sorry, guys. Sorry. My fourth prediction was that the Battlefront, the reaction to playing Battlefront on the show floor, and it was playable, was going to be overwhelmingly positive. And that's true. Most media loved the way that Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront played. And I know it feels weird saying Battlefield. It's made by the people who created Battlefield. So some people say it feels a little bit too similar. But the overwhelming reaction is that, man, it's a really, really good Battlefront game. So, yeah, that's a win. I'm taking that. That's a win. That's 2 full wins plus a half win. And I said that I had half of my predictions right. So there you go. Those are the ones I got right. Sadly, I got Zelda U wrong. I predicted that they would go back on everything and show it. Turns out that they do have some footage of it that they just didn't want to show because, according to Reggie Fils-Aimé, it would torture the Zelda fans because we are so far away from the game coming out. Looks like a holiday 2016 game. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I think them not showing it is what created the whole we gotta wait so long because you're not even showing us any of the games. So it just leaves us another potential full year until we really get details on it, and that upsets us. So there we go, 2.5 predictions right. I'm gonna take that. As a side note, and this is a bit funny, Gamnesia did a whole bunch of predictions, mostly for Nintendo. I think they did it on their Nintendo Week podcast, and they got absolutely none of them right. And I got 2.5 predictions right out of 5. So, just saying. Bossman, 1. Gamnesia, 0. That's okay. So, we did get some great stuff, and I said I was going to talk a little bit about my reactions to E3. We did get Triforce Heroes. Some of you guys might be into it. Some of you guys might not be into it. It's really up in the air on if you enjoyed it or not. Personally, I think it looks great. I haven't played it. I didn't go to the Best Buy event to try it out because the closest one to me was a good 2-hour drive away. And I was busy covering E3, so when was I going to squeeze in an extra 2 hours to drive away and then 2 hours to drive back? It's going to take up most of a day. So what I did do is I followed what Adam, the podcast man, and Jeffrey, our lead copy editor, Rodney, one of our lead news writers, and Zion, another news writer of ours. I kind of followed what their reactions were, and we put up some videos here on this YouTube channel. You can check them out. I'll put some links in the description, or you can click here or click here, and you can check out our impression videos. And we also have a full impression editorial that you can click here or there or somewhere on the screen. The point is that we have a lot of this great material for me to base my thoughts on, and it sounds like Triforce Heroes is a lot of fun. And at the core of it, that's why we play games, because they are fun. So I am excited for Triforce Heroes. It's not going to be a traditional Zelda, and I'm okay with that. It's kind of a tide me over game. Nintendo didn't say that, but it's pretty obvious that they know Zelda U's not coming out for a while. They wanted another game, not just a port, which is what Hyrule Warriors Legends is. They wanted an actual new game out there. So, they probably spent 6 months, maybe 8 months putting together Triforce Heroes. And it looks good. I'm excited. It's an online multiplayer Zelda game. Us at Zelda Informer, we're going to be playing it. We're going to be trying, that's the keyword. We do not own a capture card right now for our 3DS, but we're going to be trying to live stream it to you, show you what the communication's like, have lots of fun, get you guys involved. You guys can make fun of us in the live chat, telling us how much we suck. I'm excited for Triforce Heroes. So, overall, bringing E3 all together, we're talking Sony, we're talking Microsoft, EA, Ubisoft, Bethesda, Konami, Activision, and Nintendo, all those guys brought together. I thought E3 was okay this year. And I say okay because I felt half of it was really, really good, and half of it just was kind of a letdown. The big highlights for me was Bethesda's press conference. It was their very first press conference ever, and I thought they hit an absolute home run. It undisputed from start to finish. And that's despite the fact that they showed a mobile game. But not only did they show a mobile game, they got people excited about a mobile game. How do you do that? Like, it blows my mind that they were able to pull that off, but they did. And that just tells you how good of a press conference they were having. They spoke in gamer language. They dropped an F-bomb or two, which, normally you would say, oh, that's so unprofessional. But in context to what they were talking about, it actually made a lot of sense. And it made them feel that, hey, this guy's not just up there reciting a bunch of crap off a teleprompter in front of him. No, he's actually legitimately, passionately talking about what he does at Bethesda and the game that he's presenting. So obviously Fallout 4, that was their biggest title. But they also had Dishonored 2 and a few other titles. All of them looked absolutely fantastic. Bethesda absolutely nailed it. I thought Microsoft, of all of them, out of the big three, had the best console first-party press conference. Mostly because I go to look at press conferences for two things. And Sony and Microsoft are polar opposites on this end, so I'm going to lean towards what I personally prefer. So Microsoft showed a lot of stuff that's coming this year, okay? I think their entire press conference was games coming this year or early 2016. Sony's press conference was, here's a bunch of multi-platform games coming this year, but here's all of our exclusives that you can get next year at some point, maybe even in 2017. And I preferred Microsoft's approach that, you know what, if you've got a lot of content for this year, show it. Let's focus on that. And they did all that without showing off Scalebound, Quantum Break, games we have already seen once. They purposely skipped out on it this E3 because those aren't coming till next year, and they have a pretty full slate this year. So I really liked Microsoft's focus on, you know what, we're showing you all this, and guess what? In 3 to 6 months, you're going to be playing it. And that really draws me in. That's what E3 is about for me, is showing me what I'm going to be playing right now this year that I can get extremely excited about. Now, it feels weird saying that because Nintendo did the same thing. Nintendo showed off a bunch of stuff that's coming out this year or early 2016. The problem with Nintendo, and this is why I would have preferred if they took a more Sony approach to things, is that when you don't have a lot of content, like Microsoft had a lot of really big content coming out this year. So when you have headliners like Halo 5, you just have a lot of great stuff coming this year or early next year. You need to focus more on what's to come after this year. If you realize, you know what, here's what we have for the rest of this year. We got the Triforce Heroes, the Metroid Prime Federation Force, or whatever that everyone's overreacting about, and all those other great games. You could have all of that, but then because you don't have any really big games coming out in that time period, let people know, hey, if you buy our systems now through the holiday, you're still going to be happy with them next year, and here's why. And then they should have showed off a bunch of games for next year. Be it a new Pokemon game, even if that game's not coming out for another year, whatever, show it off. A new, the Zelda U as an example. If they do not have a new Metroid game in development for Wii U, so we can't say that. But say they have a new Mario game, anything teased. Now, obviously, they could be holding off for the NX, and I might cover that in a different episode. But reality is that Nintendo could have took a page more out of Sony's book to actually make their conference more exciting. But yeah, I think Microsoft had the best of the big three because they had so much content coming right now. The PlayStation 4's conference had, The Last Guardian, Shenmue 3, and, Final Fantasy VII Remake announced, which was a CGI trailer, and we never got to see any gameplay, and you know what? We've seen this before out of Final Fantasy VII Remakes, so it's one of those I'll believe it when I see it. But that's kind of what I got out of Sony's conference, is that everything they're talking about is just more future promises. And that really bugs me from Sony. And it's been bugging me ever since their 2013 press conference, right before they released the PlayStation 4. What's really irked me, and it bugs me that the PlayStation 4 is selling so well, is that everything they're doing is based on promises. It's not based on what they've given you. People aren't buying the PlayStation 4 outside of Bloodborne. If you really, really, really like Bloodborne, great. I'm glad that you bought it and that justified your PlayStation 4 purchase. Any single game can justify a purchase for any one player. If you bought a Wii U for Mario Kart 8, then great. And love it. You bought it for Splatoon, great. Love it. But in general, Bloodborne didn't sell 20 plus million copies. So there's a lot of people that bought into the PlayStation 4 based on hype. And that really bugs me because the PlayStation 4 hasn't delivered yet. It hasn't. The Wii U has delivered, and yet no one's buying it. And I understand why. The Wii U has other problems besides the games. They have an appeal issue. Their Wii U console is just not appealing to consumers, no matter what games it has. And that's number one Nintendo has to realize, is that, yes, games sell the system, but the system itself has to appeal to the people who want those games. And that's a problem that Nintendo hopefully addresses with the NX. You have Microsoft. They had a whole issue in 2013 with, what is the Xbox One? Is it more about sports and TV? Is it less about gaming? Is it an entertainment box, not a video game box? And that all got addressed in 2014, and ever since then, they've just been hitting releases after releases after releases. But Sony, it's all on potential. All of it. We have games coming. We heard about Uncharted 4, E3 2013, I think is the first time we heard of Uncharted 4, where they showed a little tech demo teaser. And now it's not coming until 2016. That's 3 years later. It bugs me. It just really, really, really bugs me that Sony's system is selling super well without delivering on any of the promises that they've given us. So people are buying it on hype, they're buying it on potential. Chances are they're eventually going to be really happy, whether they're really happy in 2016 or 2017. They're going to end up being happy with that purchase. It just feels like Sony is just continuing that trend since 2013 of, here's a bunch of stuff that we're going to get eventually, we're promising to you. It looks absolutely fantastic. We have no release dates, nothing concrete in stone. See us next year at E3. Bye. And that really bugs me about Sony's approach. Lots of really huge game announcements, but no idea when any of this stuff is coming. And that really bugs me because they all but admitted after Bloodborne this year, but the way they handled their press conference, they have nothing this year. There is no reason to own a PS4 the rest of this year. There is no exclusive games coming to it. Sure, there's exclusive DLC for the new Batman game, but there's exclusive DLC on the Xbox One for several games as well. It's not really, to me, a reason you buy a console. I would never say I am going to go buy a PlayStation 4 because it's got exclusive DLC for the new Batman game, or exclusive DLC for Destiny, or I'll go buy an Xbox One because it has exclusive DLC for, say, Call of Duty, which it doesn't this year, but those aren't reasons that I would go buy a console. I buy a console for the games it has. Now, I own an Xbox One. I've been a happy Xbox One owner. I got Titanfall. I've gotten Sunset Overdrive, Rise, Forza. Trying to think. And then obviously I picked up Madden because you have to own an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 to even play Madden. Thanks, EA. You could have released it on PC. You stopped doing it like 7 years ago. Bring it back. But yeah, so I'm really disappointed in Sony's conference just because it's still just perpetuating the buy a PlayStation 4 because look at all this stuff we're promising you. We haven't delivered any of it, but here we go. We're promising you it'll be great. And I no doubt it's going to be great, but why buy a PlayStation 4 now? Why not wait until that stuff starts coming out? When you start getting, the Uncharted 4s or the Last Guardians or the Shenmue 3s, why not wait until that content you want's actually there? It's not, if anything, there's actually a higher chance the PlayStation 4 will be cheaper by that time. So I don't know. That's just me. I don't really understand consumers right now that are just buying into hype on a machine and have been doing it for 2+ years and are going to continue to be doing it. But that's just me. I'm always buy it for what you want, not for what you haven't got. That's me. So yeah, I thought EA had a pretty decent press conference. I didn't like their interview with Pele. I have mad respect for Pele as a soccer player. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but dude, anybody who is the absolute best at what they've done in their life, whether it's a job, whether it's being a teacher, which I guess is a job, whether it's playing sports, etc. If you are the absolute best at what you've done, I have mad respect, especially if you worked really hard to be as good as you were. And Pele arguably worked harder than almost any soccer player who's ever played. Or, football player if you're in Europe. So it bugs me that they did this interview with him because, one, he doesn't speak extremely clear English. Now, he does understand English. He can talk it. But on a stage presentation, he's just not a very good on-stage interview. And two, it really had little to do with the FIFA game you were advertising. Yeah, he's a soccer player, but he's not really in the game. And if he is, you didn't make that clear during the conference that he would be in the game as a legend. You didn't do enough focus on the fact that there's women teams in it. You kind of just mentioned it as a one-off and showed some footage. Like, it just felt like you were trying to take us outside of the video game and into the sport, which makes sense in a sports simulation, but doesn't make sense when you're using an athlete who isn't a very good interviewer. And you could have pre-tested him and realized, you know what, if we're going to do an interview with him, it should be as a developer interview where you do during the Xbox Live post-show when they did the live streaming thing. They kind of did the Nintendo Treehouse thing where they did live streaming on the show floor. They could have easily done a Pele interview there, and I think it would have been more appropriate, not necessarily in a press conference setting. So yeah, that's kind of what I thought about EA. I didn't really like it, the way that they presented it. They could have went to the Microsoft press conference or a Sony Live after, and they could have easily done that interview. So it kind of bugged me. But otherwise, EA, the Star Wars game showed really well. Battlefront showed really well. I thought all their games pretty much showed as you would expect EA games to show. Ubisoft, I have them ranked just ahead of Nintendo. Nintendo's my bottom one. I'll get to that in a moment. But I didn't like Ubisoft's too much. They showed a lot of good games, but again, it was a lot of scripted. Like the whole The Division playthrough the day with people on stage, that was all scripted. Totally scripted. Nobody talks like that, especially live on a stage. Totally scripted. No idea if that gameplay is even legit, because when things are scripted like that, it could completely be another Aliens, Colonial Marine situation where, my God, the game looks amazing on these demos on the stage, but when you actually buy it, it's not the same game. Now, granted, I think they still make decent games. I thought Watch Dogs is better than people gave it credit for, but at the same time, they didn't fully fulfill their promises on it, and it could be the same thing with The Division. So I just feel like Ubisoft was just more, they stuck to what they're good at, and that is releasing a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of previews for games that you aren't really sure if they're true previews for the game. So that bugged me. Nintendo. Now, I'm not as mad as a lot of people are at Nintendo. I'm glad they showed everything they have coming. I just wish that they would have showed more for 2016, especially for the Wii U, because I feel like they didn't have any really heavy hitters. It's debatable if they made the right choice on the visuals for Star Fox, if they should have went with only 60 FPS on your TV, 30 FPS on the gamepad, and then improve the visuals. Some would argue they should do that, or some would argue that if you play with just a controller, the visuals should shift and look even better, and they could have showed that during the conference, but they didn't. They did what they did with Star Fox. I'm okay with it. I feel like I watched a Nintendo Direct, which is fine. It's a digital event. It's just a little bit bigger than a Nintendo Direct, and I feel like it was a bad Nintendo Direct. Like, it was kind of one of those that you're like, all right, I watched it. I'll forget about it. If it wasn't for Triforce Heroes, I really would have very little reason to be engaged with it. But that's my thoughts. That was my reactions to E3. I wasn't at E3, so this is all me at home in front of my huge systems and my multiple monitors and going crazy, talking E3. I did pretty good with my predictions. I got 2.5 right. So, yeah, like us, subscribe to us on YouTube, share this video around, follow our website, follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, all those great places. You know where we're at. You can find me at Nate Chance on Twitter. And that's it. Have a good day. Do 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 do. Welcome to Real Talk, where I bring to you some updates on Zelda 4, some updates on me. So, for starters, this video is our first ever boss man in 60 FPS. Did you like that it's a 60 FPS? 60 FPS. Did you notice a difference between this and our other videos? Would you prefer us to go back to 30 FPS? Let us know down in the comments. It's something that I'm playing with. I also am recording with a new camera. I recently changed my mobile device from a Galaxy S5 to a iPhone 6 Plus. So I have a different camera, different recording. I don't know if this is going to be better or worse, so let us know in the comments if you think this is higher quality than it was before. Or I do still have my S5 laying around if you want me to switch back to recording with my Galaxy S5, if you feel like that was a higher quality feed. Otherwise, the site's going great. We recently hired some new people. We'll be hiring some more. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, that's all I got for Real Talk this week. Happy belated Father's Day, folks. Bye.